Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the next in our discussion of the major label Stokowski boxes. And here is the RCA one. We just did the Sony one. Now, the RCA one is probably just as unavailable as the Sony one. But, the performance will show up. I mean, what are you worried about? It's all going to come back. We'll get to hear stuff all over again. In any case, we need to go through these. We really, really do. I think there's some amazing stuff in here. This is the stereo collection on RCA, 14 CDs, as opposed to 10 that were on the Sony label. Those were mostly later recordings. These go from 1954 also to the very end, 1975, the very, very end of his life. In fact, I think his last recordings are on here. And there's some amazing stuff. And unlike that Sony collection, which is almost uniformly fabulous, there are some things here which aren't as great. And it's kind of interesting to speculate on why that was the case. It has nothing to do with age. It has more to do with sonics, with the way that these things were recorded. So let's just go through it, shall we? Well, take it out here. There's no booklet. There's no anything. You just get the discs. And so we need to just peel them open and go through them one at a time. See what's on here. Okay, disc number 1, Beethoven, the Eroica and the Coriolan Overture, and Brahms, the Academic Festival Overture, and then Stokowski speaking to the orchestra after recording the Eroica. Now, listening to Stokowski speak is an experience in itself, because first of all, he always sounds like he's on Valium. He has this sort of dazed, bewildered tone to his voice, very gentle most of the time, although he could be quite vicious in rehearsal. He had a short temper, actually. But, when he's just talking, he's like, "Gentlemen, I want to thank you for doing something." Well, you can listen to it yourself. That was noble and honorable. It's weird. And he had this weird accent. I mean, he was British. I mean, he was English, and but he somehow achieved a strange Eastern European, what he might have thought was a quasi-Polish accent based on his actual descent, even though he was just an English guy, and so it's fun to listen to this minute and 30 seconds. It really is. But aside from that, you have a really fabulous Eroica. I think this is one of the great Eroicas. I don't know how he did it. I never know how he did it. First of all, he makes the piece sound beautiful, and that's always a thing with Stokowski. He cared tremendously about sound, but this is an urgent, exciting, incredibly clear, wonderfully played Eroica. And it's completely natural and organic in its flow. It's kind of amazing. It really is amazing how wonderful it is. So that's great. The overtures are terrific, and so that's a good way to start. It'll surprise you. He could always do that, You never knew what you were going to get with him. Sometimes he could be in perverse mode, and sometimes he could just be one of the greatest conductors and respectful conductors around. And this was him in respectful mode, but just at his absolute best, with galvanizing the orchestra to play the daylights out of it. And he was in his 90s. Really amazing. And as I said in my talk about the Sony stuff, one of the things that's so cool about Stokowski is that he did not slow down. He never showed signs of age, ever. He just didn't. I mean, I think that's such a tribute to the man, to his ability. Anyway, next, Shostakovich, 6th with Chicago. Oh, fabulous. The Age of Gold Suite and Khachaturian's 3rd Symphony. One of the most ear-splittingly vulgar and annoying pieces ever written. It has dozens of trumpets and an organ and thing. Oh, it's just obnoxious. And Stokowski loves every minute of it. I mean, if you want to hear it, this is the one to hear, because you've got the Chicago Symphony going completely ape in both pieces and making this Khachaturian absolutely the kind of ear-splitting horror that the composer surely intended. Actually, I'm sure he thought it was noble and socialist realist, but yeah, it's really just atrocious, and it's fun to listen to in this performance. It's musical junk food. You know what I mean? It's a nice big bag of musical chips or crisps if you're in England. I don't care. It's just a big greasy bag of them. Yum. Next. Oh, yeah, Menotti, Sebastian, the ballet suite. I mean, was there ever a conductor who cared more about contemporary music and who recorded more of it so well? I mean, nowadays you have conductors who play avant-garde modern music. but they're hopeless doing anything else. Stokowski did everything, and he did everything just about equally well or equally weirdly. And his modern tastes were unlimited. He didn't just like avant-garde or the most modern stuff. He liked anything that was contemporary, and he didn't care what style it was in, whether it was tonal or atonal. The guy was incredible. So Menotti, Sebastian, the ballet suite, and Prokofiev, some excerpts from Romeo and Juliet. And this is early. This is with members of the NBC Symphony after Toscanini's end. And, it's fun to have. It's only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movements from Romeo and Juliet. Most of the gloomy ones. I mean, there's Juliet as a young girl, which is nice, but then you've got the love scene and Romeo at Juliet's grave and Juliet's death. So it's good to have Sebastian to sort of lighten things up somewhat. Then we've got, you have to have a Wagner collection. Now, there are so many Stokowski Wagner collections on so many different labels. They're on Everest, they're on Sony, they're on Warner or EMI, whatever that was at the time. I mean, they're everywhere. And the early ones, the early 78s he did with the Philadelphia Orchestra, they're just, he was an amazing Wagner conductor, and he messed with Wagner. And I just love it. I love it. You have the Ride of the Valkyries, the prelude to Act 3 of Tristan and Isolde, no Liebestod, sorry. The Entrance of the Gods into Valhalla, Tannhäuser Overture, and the Venusberg music, which is great to have. The Rienzi Overture, and the Magic Fire music. Now, the Magic Fire music he recorded on Everest with the Houston Symphony, and that recording is the one to get rather than this one, because, again, it's a question of sonics. Not that this is bad. It's very well recorded. It's very good. But he does so much with the music, and he so fiddles with the sonics in that Everest recording. You've got like thousands of harps, and I think he throws an organ in at one point, and the end, of course, is a beautiful chord for the winds, but not with Stokowski. He rescores it for the strings. Why have those nasty brass there when you can have a sexy, sensual violin thing go? Oh, it's just yummy. Absolutely yummy. So this is not as yummy, but everything else is really cool, and so that's fun, and it's nice to have. And we've got more Wagner. Why not? Die Meistersinger excerpts and the Prelude and Liebestod. It's on this one from Tristan and Isolde and Götterdämmerung, Siegfried's Rhine Journey, the Funeral March, and the Immolation Scene. And they're immolating like crazy. This is with the Royal Philharmonic and the London Symphony, by the way. Most of these are with English orchestras, and it's Stokowski, it's Wagner. You're going to love it. I mean, no need to go any further with that one. Now we have this is weird. This is a weird collection of strange stuff with the New Symphony Orchestra of London and the RCA Victor Symphony. It's one of those bizarre collections that only Stokowski could have thrown together. You get Beethoven, The Heavens Are Telling, which is actually by Haydn. But this is Beethoven did the same thing. His Opus 48, number 4, arranged by Norman Luboff with the Norman Luboff Choir. So there you go. Remember, the heavens are telling the glory of God from Haydn's The Creation. It's not this one. It's not that one. This is a different one. This is the Beethoven one. And then we've got Deep River and Handel's Ombre mai fou, better known as the Largo from Xerxes or Circe, and then Humperdinck's Evening Prayer. I mean, this is one of those lovely, sanctimonious, sentimental Victorian religiosity discs. And Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring by Bach and Rachmaninoff's Vocalese. I mean, it's a weird mix, though, isn't it? Isn't it? You ever notice that Rachmaninoff's Vocalese sounds like the Taster's Choice commercial? Remember that? Times like these were made for Taster's Choice. An instant coffee commercial, I mean, that's the Rachmaninoff Vocalese. The Taster's Choice tune was a tiny bit different. I wonder if they were unconsciously parodying it. And then we've got traditional Praise God from Whom All Blessings Flow, better known as the Old 100th. Vaughan Williams did a thing on that. And then Wagner's Pilgrim's Chorus, and Bach's Sheep May Safely Graze, and Tchaikovsky's Paternoster, and Gluck's O Savior, Hear Me, from Orfeo and Eurydice. These are all arranged by Norman Luboff, which Stokowski is playing. And finally, last but certainly not least, a selection of water music by Handel from the Suite in F major, which is in, I think it's, who knows what arrangement it is. I'm not even going to try. It's a sui generis selection of just stuff. Not really kind of bizarre, but there you go. And then we've got, this is a classic. This is the Anamapho recital. You get a bunch of songs of the Auvergne by Canteloube and Villa-Lobos Bachianas Brasileiras, number 5, probably the greatest one of those you've ever heard in your life. And the Rachmaninoff Vocalese, actually done as a Vocalese with the American Symphony, Anamapho, Leopold Stokowski. As I said, this was a classic on RCA Gold Seal. I mean, when I used to work at record stores in my high school and college days, you could not keep this thing in stock. It was just an unbelievably constant and steady seller, and a disc that so few people really know about now. But it's marvelous. It's short. It's like 40 minutes of music, but Moffo sounds fabulous, and it's Stokowski and the Villa-Lobos. Oh, yummy, because it's for an orchestra of cellos, 8 cellos and soprano, and boy, are they just delicious. My goodness. CD 8. Dvorak, the New World Symphony, Smetana, the Moldau, and the Bartered Bride Overture. Well, this is a little interesting. Stokowski mucks with Dvorak. He does. I mean, at the end of the first movement, you've got like trumpet trills in the coda. Da, 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 like this. It's like, whoa, oh, what was that? And then there are a few extra percussion things at the very end, including a nice quiet tam-tam swat at the very end. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Now, my only regret is that this was not a Phase 4 recording, because you would have heard all of the gaucheries even more vividly had it been. But it's a very exciting New World Symphony of Stokowski in his sort of, kind of perverse mode. But it's fun. I mean, why worry? Tchaikovsky, the Pathétique. Well, Stokowski doing Tchaikovsky could always be very strange in terms of tempo, in terms of his changing around the orchestration, the push me, pull you approach to Tchaikovsky. And this Pathétique is one of those. Everybody hated it when it first came out. You also get the Ionescu, Romanian Rhapsody number 1. Well, that's fun. And Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody number 2. And they all get the Stokey treatment. And you just either accept it and enjoy it, or pass. You have no choice. I think this Pathétique is a little bit bizarre. And, the thing about these demented things that he did is that, you can accept them if they're demented enough. I mean, if they're so crazy that you just go, it's crazy. Well, this one, again, it's because the RCA engineers, I think, were not willing to quite go give it the full multi-mic'd, insane, neon lit treatment. So yeah, it's a little bizarre, but it's not as colorfully bizarre as Stokey could be. And for me, I mean, if he's going to be perverse, he might as well go all the way. There's no point in having a half perverse performance. So I don't think it's a great Pathétique either, but you get a sense of it. It's okay. Scheherazade, here's another one, and the Russian Easter Overture with cuts, which drive me crazy. It's a terrible Russian Easter Overture, frankly. I think it's pallid and rather indifferently played, and the Scheherazade is no match for the Phase 4 Decca one, which has all of his orchestral readjustments, which includes adding a xylophone and tam-tam things and harps and stuff, and oh my God, you want to hear all of that, and you've got to just get the Decca one. This is good. It's quite good, but it's no comparison at all. So I don't worry about Scheherazade. Then we've got, what's this one? Oh, we've got one of his Bach things, Bach and Handel. You've got the fireworks music to complement the water music. And then, Bach partita for solo violin, the chaconne in an arrangement. And then the prelude from the partita for violin number 3 in E major, and A Mighty Fortress Is Our God, and bits of the air on a G string, from the orchestral suite number 3, and the fugue in G minor, and an arioso from a cantata. I stand here and I'm like with one foot in the grave. I mean, that's the title. And Wach it auf, Sleepers Awake, and Come Sweet Death. So you've got, Stokowski and Bach transcriptions are self-recommending. They are unlike anything else anybody ever did, and they are wonderful and delicious and fun to hear. So that's great. Then we've got, oh yeah, Brahms Fourth. This Brahms Fourth is fabulous. It's one of the all-time great Brahms Fourth. Swift, urgent, thrilling from beginning to end. You're not going to believe Brahms could be this exciting. And it's like the Beethoven Eroica. He's on his best behavior, and they just play the daylights out of it. It's amazing. Now, it's coupled to the Mahler 2, the Resurrection. And Stokowski was a lifelong proponent of Mahler, but he recorded virtually none of it. So when this number 2 came out, it was a big deal. And it was the first Mahler 2 I ever heard. And it blew me away. It turned me on to Mahler. I have great sentimental affection for it. However, it was only much later that I realized just what he does to it. I mean, he rewrites pretty substantial bits of it. He really does. I mean, he rewrites the percussion parts, and the horns do some interesting things. And there's the tempos. The tempi are tempos, tempi, whatever they are a little bit eccentric. A really quick scherzo. It's a very unconventional Mahler too. It just is. There's a live version of it too that you can hear, which is just as weird. And so afterwards, I realized that there was much more to Mahler too, frankly, than what Stokowski brings to it. But the big moments, he was one of those guys. I mean, these great moments are just unbelievable. No one does them like him because no one's willing to rewrite the piece to realize the same effects. I mean, the very ending with the bells and it's glorious. Absolutely glorious. There are moments that are just exceptional, but so many other people are sort of more effective and idiomatic Mahler conductors, and that's just the reality. And then last but not least, now here we have, this is the rehearsal disc. That's a bunch of rehearsal discs. First of all, you get the Mahler 2 rehearsal disc, which is fun, and you've got some bits of the Pastoral Symphony and the rehearsal of the Rienzi Overture. And the Toccata and Fugue rehearsal, the Bach Toccata and Fugue D minor, performed and rehearsed. And it's just like, selections of little Stokey bits. And it's nice to have little Stokey bits just for fun so that you can get a sense into how the guy got what he got, which is, I mean, you can listen to it and sort of hear him say things and do things, but still, it doesn't explain it really, does it? It's just amazing. So, this is the Stokey RCA box, and it is more variable, as I said, than the Sony box. But when it's extraordinary, it is extraordinary. And for the Eroica and the Brahms Fourth and the Anamapho recital and the Bach and Wagner stuff, and there's so much good stuff in here, so much fascinating stuff that nobody else could have done anything like it. And that's why we treasure him, because he was unique. No matter what, say what you will. That's the case. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. There's another one to come. I'm really looking forward to that, too. Take care.